Hello and welcome to Film Companion South. Today we're going to be talking about Vetrimaaran's Asuran starring Dhanush. The overall arc of the film is from Poomani's novel Vekkai, which means heat, and it was just translated this summer in English. The film starts with an incident by Chidambaram, who is a young teenage boy played by Ken Karunas. Now this boy is from an impoverished farming family and he ends up killing a local big shot named Narsimhan and played by Adikalam Naren. Now Chidambaram's father, played by Dhanush, and his name is Sivaswamy, he fears retribution from Narsimhan, whose men are very powerful. So he takes his son Chidambaram and goes into the forest to hide. So the tension, at least in the first half, is whether or not Chidambaram and Sivaswamy will be found by the men tracking them sent by Narsimhan's family. The film opens with a tranquil shot of the moon, but as with the novel's title, it's all about heat. The heat inside people that makes the blood boil for violence. And when I say people, I mean Chidambaram too, for his killing was an act of revenge murder because Narsimhan was responsible for the killing of Murugan, who was Chidambaram's older brother. In short, what we have here is a familiar story of haves and victimized have-nots with genre toppings. It's a chase movie, it's a revenge drama, and what's interesting after a point is what this particular director is going to do with this particular material. In other words, what is Vetrimaaran going to tease out? What are the specifics that he's going to tease out from this very, very broad and generic material? Is he going to make a mass movie, given that he has transformed the rather poetic title of the book, which hinted at nature, both human and nature, into something that suggests something horrific and superheroic, Asuran? Or is the title a red herring meant to make us think that it's about Dhanush the star, whereas the story is actually about Dhanush the actor? After all, Sivaswamy is the least superheroic man imaginable. He is, in the past we see what he was. He was this big mass guy, but in the present he's as far away from that as possible. He has buried everything that was there earlier deep inside him. And why has he changed? In order to protect those around him, his family, and yet nothing seems to have changed with them. His wife, played by Manju Warrier, feels that it would have been better if Sivaswamy had murdered that man and not her younger son. His sons love him too, but they see him as a rather contemptible creature because they're all about Manam and Gauravam and Rosham like the young people of their age. So despite Sivaswamy's best efforts, the bloodlust that is carefully contained inside him has already been passed on to the next generation. In other words, it's not nurture, it's nature. There's some expectedly brilliant writing. This is, after all, a Vetrimaaran film. I love the scene where Murugan, who's the older son, ends up defending Narsimhan, who has him beaten up by the cops. Why did Narsimhan have him beaten up by the cops? Because Murugan beat up Narsimhan's son. And Murugan says, well, if he doesn't beat me up, then what kind of father is he? The violence, in other words, is the rite of passage, and the screenwriting is cyclical too. What happens in one generation finds echoes in the next generation. The older Sivaswamy, that is the guy in the present day timeline, may be able to buy his son a pair of chappals without a thought. But in the older times, his class and caste were forbidden to wear chappals. This may seem like an improvement, but the upper classes have upped their game too, because their fences, the fences that divide one person's land from another, these fences are now electrified. The divide, in other words, has become deadlier, though actually little else has changed. Both Sivaswamys, that is in the older timeline and in the present day timeline, both of them end up fighting for land, both of them end up on the wrong side of powerful and privileged people, and both of them end up seeking refuge under a Brahmin lawyer played by Prakash Raj. Most importantly, both timelines feature a man on the run. Technically and legally, is this man guilty? Yes. But did he start it all? In both cases, the answer is no. The star Dhanush of the second half is in fine form, but it's really the actor Dhanush, that is the senior Sivaswamy, who gives this film its heat. He looks older than his years, his brow is constantly creased with worry, and he rarely ever raises his voice, as if he's just tamped down everything inside him. We should not be celebrating things like no other actor would have taken up this role, because it is an actor's job to take up all kinds of roles. But in the current Kollywood scenario, and with the exception of Vijay Sethupathi, it is hard to think of another actor or star who would do the things that Dhanush is asked to do here. At one point, he's humiliated in front of the entire village, and yet he walks away calmly, and when he reaches home, he's so exhausted that he practically collapses. A million macho cliches are shattered right there. But the character's arc isn't convincingly etched out. One of the film's best editing transitions shows the younger Dhanush, that is from the older timeline, cut away to the newer Dhanush. We just see a transition from that phase to this phase. But while we see this transition visually, we don't feel it emotionally as to how that man transitioned into this man. Now, there's a very rousing mass stretch during the interval point, and it's going to please a lot of people, and it's further massified by G.V. Prakash's music and well-wrought cinematography. And this involves the senior Dhanush, the older man, picking up a stick and showing us signs of the fighter that he once was. And I found myself with this question that I would not have asked during a regular mass masala movie. Would this older, weakened man really be able to find it in himself to beat away so many virile thugs? Now that's the thing about something like Vekkai becoming something like Asuran, when something so realistic becomes something so cinematic. Now I'm not saying that a film has to do everything a novel does. A film can be an entirely different beast altogether. But the thing is, Vetrimaaran himself is a fairly realistic filmmaker. He prefers understatement even when he's working in a kind of masala mode. And at this interval point, he seems to be saying, okay, I've made the kind of movie that I want to make so far. Now I really need to do something for Dhanush fans. None of the characters feel fully formed because the timelines feel rushed. We don't feel the time and the lives of these people weigh down on us the way they did in Visaranai or Vada Chennai. Maybe it's a good thing that our auteurist filmmakers are moving away from certain conventions like using a song to define a sad moment or something, but what is going to replace these conventions? Even the messaging is more overt. What was shown on what was left for us to sense in something like Visaranai is explicitly told here. But that's probably because this is much more of a mass kind of movie, and still there is no denying the power of this material. Even within the broadest of these genre constructs, Vetrimaaran manages to leave behind a trace of his signature. Asuran is not in the league of his earlier films, whether the ones he's made with Dhanush or the other ones, but it is still a very rare beast in Tamil cinema. It is either a character-driven action film or an action-filled character drama. I'm still not convinced that mass and social messaging are a good mix, but if done, this is probably the best way it could be done. So that's it about Asuran. The full review is up on the Film Companion website. If you like this video, do subscribe to Film Companion South, and see you soon at the movies.